Augustine wrote, "Hope has two beautiful daughters, anger and courage. We are here out of hope, for help and to gain and share support. Dealing with anger, finding courage." The journey faced can be a lonely one, but deeply tied to our family, friends, the nurturing souls, our rocks, our children. In this film, we will hear from 6 group members to understand their lives and thoughts and those of ones close to them.
I wasn't expecting a diagnosis of breast cancer, full stop, let alone advanced breast cancer, and which followed just a few days after my initial diagnosis of early breast cancer. It was almost like the world kept going and I stopped, kind of thing. I was like on the outside looking in and wondering what was going to happen, and I really didn't expect to make it through the next week, let alone 5 years later.
If the survival benefit at 12 months was...
I was like most women that would probably be diagnosed stage 4 and utter shock, and it was devastating. Foremost and initially, I thought I was going to die immediately. I didn't think that here 3 years later I would still be here talking to you.
I think your first reaction is just total and utter shock. You go home, everybody's in shock. Of course, all the other things happen. You stop work, everything stops.
You've got this stage 4 cancer now, it's terminal. I had a young family, I'm not a grandmother yet, I want to be a grandmother, and all those things kind of came on top of me in the first 24 hours of like, what happens now? What happens to my family? I'm not ready to go anywhere. All those things, and you kind of don't see that beyond that to begin with. In the first kind of 24, 48 hours, I felt that it was just this doom and gloom, I'm going to die.
I was gutted, couldn't believe it. I was in complete shock. I thought, how could this be happening? I blamed the doctors. I felt angry that in my mind, I wasn't checked thoroughly enough regularly. Cried for days and days and days.
I was diagnosed breast cancer, and then 4 days later it was diagnosed as non-operable metastatic, already in my spine, pelvis and left femur. Scary, frightening. My husband had just died of cancer a few weeks before, and suddenly thinking that my girls were going to be orphans all within the same year.
I don't even know anymore. I don't know. I take about 3 times a day, probably about 7 to 8 pills.
I think maybe just try and take a step back from the diagnosis, like just don't, I know it's been thrown at you and you've just been told this awful thing, but take a step back from that and maybe just kind of absorb it a bit before you panic. It didn't help me. I kind of just made things a lot worse for me, and I think that if you just can take a step back, ask some questions about yourself, about what concerns that you've got, ask your doctors. Don't be afraid to ask. I think that sometimes you're afraid what the answer's going to be, and you might not want to ask the question. Just ask the questions.
Over time, I've learnt to understand that this is a long process. There are medications that can give you longevity, and I've been fortunate enough that I've responded very well to the treatment that they've been giving me.
I think back then I used to blame doctors for not checking me, obviously. Now I think women doctors need to be proactive as well, but women need to be proactive and, you know, demand tests, demand scans.
I felt very alone, incredibly alone. Jack, my youngest, had just started school, so he was 5. Just literally, I got my diagnosis in February, so he just started school, and all my good friends, mothers from preschool, were all just talking about PrEP, and I just could not. All I had was this feeling of, I have breast cancer. I'm going to die. I might not see him through the end of this first year, let alone beyond. I guess for our sons, it was, they were only 10 and 5, and William, with having special needs, intellectually he's delayed. So it was like dealing with 2 quite young children. We at first didn't want to tell them about the diagnosis. It was actually Pia and Mary, who run the support group, who encouraged us to be open with the children, and my psychologist, who told us to answer their questions honestly and simply, and not give other information that they really didn't require, just simple, honest answers to their questions.
I won't lie, I think about it every single day. I guess initially, yes, you go through a whole series of phases. I think initially terror, then frustration, and I did feel a bit angry and almost resentful. My responses probably very similar to what Bridget was going through. Very much a feeling of helplessness and frustration, because there's really not much that I can do apart from providing obviously emotional support.
My husband was very, very distraught. He was really upset at the diagnosis and the thought that I might not be here anymore and what that would mean for him, and especially as we have a 12-year-old.
You know, you're hearing Trish telling you the news, but it's kind of, I guess, processing what she's saying. I guess there was an element of disbelief. You sort of jump to worst case scenario. Oh my God, you know, does that mean, you know, death, or what exactly does that mean? There's multiple things running around in your head when, well, that's what I remember when I first got the news, yeah.
I think I'm probably still trying to deal with it, for sure. Just a whole mix of emotions, not knowing what to expect. I definitely have a new outlook on life. And when it comes to people like my friends, I'm probably a little bit less tolerant for silly drama that they have in their life. Yeah, it is different. I'm different as well, but it is just growing and learning and becoming a new person through new life experiences, I think.
Our initial response was a pretty practical one, you know. I don't think it's funny, I don't think we had a lot of time to really let any of that really emotional stuff become too prevalent. I think it was just about, on a more practical level, just about dealing with what was immediately in front of us.
We protected Luca, my youngest, kind of just said to him that the cancer had returned and that I needed to have more treatment. As time has gone on, I've revealed to him that the type of cancer that I have is not curable and that I will need to remain on treatment for the rest of my life. So he has that understanding now, but it was a bit of a slow reveal. I kind of didn't want to hit him with that all at once.
When my mum's feeling really sick, like sicker than usual, she's usually in bed, and I'd usually like hang out with her on a weekend. We'd watch TV, or like I'd make her scrambled eggs and we'd just sit there watching some show that she likes. Yesterday I watched Vikings with her and that was fun. At school I really don't let anyone know because I guess they shouldn't really know. It's not any of their business.
My girls came through the door and they said to me, just tell me, Mum, what's wrong. And I told them that my cancer had returned, and then we all just broke down and cried together. And I just told them that I was sorry. I felt sorry because I had to put them through this all again. They'd seen it before and they knew that if I ever got it back, it couldn't be cured. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Because as a mother, the one thing you want to do is protect your children. And I can't protect them from what's happening to me anymore.
Never having it in the family before, it just was a shock. And of course I live in New Zealand and Lorraine lives in Australia. It was a shock to her brothers as well. She's my only daughter.
Her re-diagnosis, I guess, was a big shock. We didn't expect it. I'm usually a fairly positive person, so I guess in my head I'd never entertained a thought that it would come back. I was so angry that it just felt unfair. It really shocked me and I wasn't expecting it, so I guess that's how I dealt with it, with anger. It's probably not the best way to deal with it, but I was very upset and angry.
When she was first diagnosed the second time, I was her carer, so I was there 24/7. So I saw everything that happened and, you know, her good days, her bad days. Like, it doesn't come with an instruction book. You kind of just gotta take it day by day. Like, just help her when she needs it. And she also, mum being mum, she also needs to have her independence as well.
In, you know, terms of my relationship and my friends, I distanced myself from them, and because I couldn't socially cope.
I almost had to put my life on hold because at the time I really wanted to start my apprenticeship, but I kind of had to put it on the back burner. It was just hard.
We've just gone on this journey with Lorraine, which has been a number of years now. It hasn't been easy, so we just try to help her along and do the best we can for her. And yes, I've had many thoughts, many tears.
When I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, I had to tell the girls, and I did that wrong. So I wish I'd kept my mouth shut a lot better and hadn't told them straight away. I told them when I was upset, and I should have waited till I was calmer and a bit more controlled and had a bit more information, and I didn't.
The first I found out about Mum being sick was her stopping at my house one evening just before we were making dinner, and she came in, said she wasn't going to stay, but she just blurted out that she had breast cancer and that it was stage 4, and then she left. So it was kind of a bit emotional.
Just I was upset at the time, and I went down and poor Kathy got dumped with a whole lot of it.
She had kept all the initial doctor's visits from us, so we both demanded to go with her for her first oncologist visit, which was good for us because it meant that we got to hear the same message that she was hearing.
I definitely had way too much information at my hands during those first few months, and I went very hardcore in trying to help Mum fix herself. I was determined that I was going to be the one that cured her. Being 25 when my dad died and my mum suddenly got diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. I'm in a long-term relationship but unmarried. I'd never thought of children yet before then, but instantly I felt desperately needy to try and start having a baby so that my mum would get a grandchild before she passed away.
I have 3 sons, 1 daughter, 3 5-year-olds, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old grandchild. And they need to be told in a way that's easy for them to understand, because my granddaughter who lives here, it's just as hard for her to live with cancer as it would be for any child in a house to live with cancer. I would probably say that I was the matriarch of our family, or Mother Hubbard, I don't know, whichever way you want to look at it. But when your roles change, it is extremely hard. I get frustrated, I'll be very honest with you.
I see those tick boxes on those forms you fill out where it says married, separated, de facto. We need a box for complicated. We've been together since we were 17, so three children together. I guess pre-diagnosis, we never used to talk about emotions, we never used to talk about things. Dealing with cancer affects relationships. There's no two ways about it. It either builds strength between a couple or it's this big divide. After that diagnosis, went through a phase of wanting to do stuff, wanting to live life to the fullest and jump out of planes and all of the rest of the stuff, which in turn kind of impacted badly on our relationship. I think one of the hardest things is trying to go on with life and raise a family and be normal and not put the kids through too much trauma, as well as trying to deal with all those emotions.
Well, she first got diagnosed when I was in probably year 6, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I still prefer not to think about it too much, honestly. I kind of think in a lot of ways it kept us together, because when me and Dad were up in Darwin, the main reason we moved back was to look after Mum. I suppose I rely on the people close to me a lot more than I used to. Better relationships, I suppose. At school, I never really talked about it at all, really. It's hard to talk about. There was one time when my boyfriend was complaining about how Mum was acting, and I went on a big rant about everything she's going through, and it just made me understand her so much more.
My oncologist, who actually came to a workshop, he said, I want you to go. I want you to go to the ABC group. This was 14 months after I was diagnosed. So for me, it's just that 14 months was completely black. I lost myself. I lost my confidence. Putting in a phone number.
No, but I hope it will. I hope it'll. I think it's a really good idea. I know that there's been a few. Can I find out who's just called in?
Hi Mary, it's Natalie.
Hi Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi Natalie. I'll just tell you who's on the phone. We have Lisa and Marge.
Went looking online for a support group, and they were the first ones that came up, and I gave them a call. My husband and I went in for an interview just to go through what was happening for me and whether or not the group would be suitable for me. Luckily it was, because I've really gained some support and camaraderie and companionship that I would never ever find anywhere else. I've been able to talk about my symptoms openly, people understanding kind of what I'm talking about, like just kind of they get what's going on for me.
Even though it can probably be a little bit heavy to deal with at times, I think that being around people who are sharing a similar experience to you would definitely helps her own experience and feelings, and knowing that she's not alone. Yeah, well, exactly, that's the plus. And just seeing how different everybody's journey can be, I think that can be positive.
When we were growing up, we had quite a good social circle growing up. And when Mum fell sick the first time and then was re-diagnosed, we found that a lot of those people weren't in our lives that were before. So she sort of struggled not having someone that understood and she was close to.
I could see she was getting more and more withdrawn, depressed. And I said, well, is there anything? And she said, yes, there is a group, Mum. And I said, I think it would be a wonderful idea to join a group, and eventually she did, and she's never looked back.
I wanted to be with women that were like me, that understood the daily struggles of what this diagnosis meant. It's given me friendships. It's given me an outlet for me to be able to talk about my feelings, my frustrations, the things that you find difficult to talk about with your own family.
You know, when you meet these women and when you know these women, because you don't come at their relationship like you would in any normal relationship, can't fiddle around with that sort of time factor. You're there, you have got the same thing. Everybody's is different though. We've all got different types of cancer.
Way back in 2009, early diagnosis, I was very not interested in groups, not interested in meeting other people going through the same thing. Whereas secondary diagnosis, I kind of felt so isolated and alone. And not that I was isolated or alone, just the people around me didn't know what I was going through.
I've formed some very, very good friendships, and you form friendships pretty quickly. It's that very special bond, because you find other women who really know what you're going through.
For a guy, one has a tendency to sort of want to retreat into the shed and just get on with doing what you do. Having the Advanced Breast Cancer Support Group has been a wonderful thing for my mental health, and definitely been great for Bridget, but it's helped me no end. Been fortunate enough to be involved in the workshops. The workshops have brought in oncologists to speak about what's going on at the cutting edge. I've met other men who are going through something very similar to what I'm going through. You can talk about your feelings and it's harder for guys to open up. This is our lot. We can't. We've got to make the best of a bad situation. I think the best thing is to be able to go to something like this so that you can meet other people who are going through a similar situation to you.
I can speak with friends and family or work colleagues, and there are some really supportive people out there, supportive for me, but again, they don't really understand what it is you're experiencing or how you're feeling, and it's just nice that, you know, there are other people who know what you're talking about.
There are some really challenging, frightening times, but there are also some happy times and good times, and it's true that you do start to really appreciate what you've got in your life.
People in similar circumstances that would understand my emotions, that I could say the depressing, dark things too, and not be judged and not be told I'm being negative. Finding the group helped me with that.
You meet each other and it's like you've known each other for years. You bounce off each other, you find out a lot of information, how to deal with things like where you can go for help to combat depression, financial problems.
Having this group, Mum has really taken to it. She loves it, and being able to talk to women that she can relate to and they understand, and you know, they can talk about the darker things that your other friends wouldn't be interested in, that Mum needs to get off her chest and talk about.
You find out about different side effects from the ladies in the group. You find out whether things are painful, or about painkillers, learning about palliative care. The ladies in the group will help you with that.
You also learn how one drug may affect one woman, but it doesn't, and it may not affect you that way.
I can have a whinge and about my toenails falling off, and about the skin peeling off my feet, not being able to walk, and my hip, needs an injection, and all these things we can have a laugh about. But the other people just kind of don't understand the everyday crap that we have to deal with.
When people ask you there, how are you? You can just tell them exactly how you are, and it's not that loaded how are you, it's that I understand, how are you? And you really want to know, and you really care a lot for the other women in the group. Care a lot.
think when you're dealing with something like this, it doesn't get much heavier. And a lot of things I guess that would have, maybe got me on edge or maybe got me a little angry with the kids, it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter. And I think I've become a lot calmer in that respect. We're all here now. We all love each other. We all get on, and we're a family, and that's great.
Yeah, it's a shit, I'm not going to lie. I feel like crap most days, but on the flip side of that, it's made me appreciate what I have a hell of a lot more, who I have in my life. It's made me want to get up and live. I think before I kind of had this blasé attitude to life, and then this thing kind of stops you in your tracks and kind of throws death in your face, and you think, oh God, what am I going to take from this? And I have to take something positive from it, because otherwise it's just going to consume me, and I don't want to be consumed by this. And we're moving forward. The plans that we've always talked about that we never did before, we're actually doing now. It's kind of put a bit of a, kick up the butt kind of thing, and let's just do these things and be grateful for what we've got.
The two older daughters, I feel guilt that I'm holding their life up to some degree. I also feel guilt for Emma, because her whole life has been, Mum's been sick. So I worry how that's going to impact on her later on and what she's going to miss out on that the other two had that she won't get or may not get. I mean, who knows? Crystal ball, I could live 20 years.
Yeah, I still got a few more places I want to visit and a few more things I want to do. It's something that's going to happen. There's not much we can do about it. We're going to have fun till then, though.
I had red hair before all this happened. I had flaming red hair, and I had a temper and a personality to go with it. I can't say I've actually gone back to the person I was before, and I don't think that will ever happen. But I'm more comfortable. I've got more control over my life now. When you're on the same path together, I think my lucky stars that I can call them friends and true friends.
There was a wonderful woman in the group, Margaret, who'd been part of the group for several years, and sadly she passed away just over a year ago. But Margaret said on a few occasions, we're not women dying from breast cancer, we're women living with breast cancer. And that was really important. That really helped me to think, yeah, we're living with it and to accept it.
It's a new journey. It's something that you can only navigate yourself. I strongly recommend women reach out to other women that are in the same situation. They give you strength, understanding, and compassion. Love and support.